7.
I can confirm that the live stream has now started.
Lovely. Thank you. If everybody's happy, then we'll begin. Welcome to the Community Safety Committee. Can I just start by proposing we just take a minute's silence in memory of Ray Darby, who we lost recently. It surprised us all, I think, and yes, if I could call for just a minute's silence now. Thank you, members. Thank you, members. A sad loss to us all, especially his family. Item 1 on the agenda. Apologies, Aaron.
We don't have any apologies for absence other than that obvious of Ray Darby. If anyone, if people could just make their attendance known, please. Oh, Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, Pat, we do have apologies for absence from Councillor Jan Gould, and in light of the sad news about Ray Darby, we didn't think it was appropriate to substitute her and leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jackson.
And I just thank the leader, and myself would like to thank the leader of the opposition for the action they've taken with regards to withdrawing a member at the present time. It's much appreciated and it will be remembered. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Steve. I think, do you want to say who's present, or shall we just move to the next item? So are you muted, are you?
Sorry. Yes, if I could just run down who's here, please. Sorry. So we've got Joshua Parker, David Gale. Oh, sorry. Could people just make their presence known in the chat, please, and then I'll write the attendance from that. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Right, moving on to item 2. Any declarations of interest? Kath, has anyone declared any restrictions on their participation? Hello, Janet. I'm sorry, in what capacity are you here, Janet?
None whatsoever. I don't mean to be there. It came up and I clicked it. And if I was there, I would only just be listening in. Well, if you could, thank you. If you could mute and turn your camera off, maybe. Yes, certainly. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. It's because it came up on my screen. Yeah. Wait a minute. That's it. Better? Yeah. I better turn my voice off too. I'll turn everything off. I beg your pardon.
We're all enjoying this Teams, well. Right, on to item 3, the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I propose them as a true record? Do I have a seconder for that?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thanks, Hannah. Can I put it over to the vote, please?
Okay, so I'm going to do my best. Unfortunately, I can't see the attendance list correctly, so I'm going to try my hardest to get through the vote correctly. If I do miss you out, I do apologise. Please just tell me you're here. Okay, so we're going to start with Councillor Bagshaw.
Yeah, here. And 4.
Councillor Barbara Carr.
I'm here, abstain, because I wasn't here last time.
Councillor Lee Fletcher. Councillor Fletcher?
4.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Jackson.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Stephanie Kerry.
4.
Councillor Hannah Land.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Richard McRae. Richard, are you there?
Yeah, 4.
Thank you. Councillor Joshua Parker.
Joshua's on his mobile, but he can't take part in the live meeting.
No, I've got it.
Oh,
Sorry, 4.
Well done, Joshua.
Lovely. Thank you, Joshua. Councillor Colin Tideswell. Colin, are you there? Okay. Councillor Roberts Thompson.
4. And
Thank
I'm here.
Good to know. Thank you. Councillor Patrick Lally.
4.
Thank you. And have I missed anyone? Was that everybody? No one's missing from that vote? Good news. Thank you very much.
I think that's all the committee. I think it is. Yes.
Yeah,
So thank you, Kat. Moving on now to item 4, an update from the Neighbourhood Policing Inspector. I think he's here. Take it away. Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the panel for inviting me once again to give you an update. I will try and keep this as briefly as I can because I'm aware that I overstayed my welcome last time, so I'll try and keep it as short as I can. So I'll go through the crime figures and a few little updates. So all crime for the year to date across the borough is currently showing a 16.5% reduction. That equates to 753 fewer victims of crime in the year to date, which runs from the beginning of April. Obviously, the pandemic has had a significant impact on some of the crime figures, but regardless, a reduction is always nice to see. To go through some specific crime types then, violence with injury is showing a 13% reduction, robbery a 41% reduction, burglary a 39% reduction for all types of burglary. Of note in there, dwelling house burglaries are down by 32%, and business and community burglaries, commercial burglaries in old money, down by 62%. Again, with burglary being one of the local policing priorities, that's very pleasing to see. Shop theft currently showing a reduction of 14.5%. Bicycle theft, which I know always arouses interest in the town centres, particularly Beeston, that's showing a 43% reduction. Motor crime, auto crime, motor vehicle offences is showing a 34% reduction. Arson and criminal damage, a 21% reduction. Now on to some increases. The first one is always a pleasing increase to see because it means we're catching more people, and that's around drug offences. So trafficking and controlled drugs, the way we deal with drug dealers, we're showing a 62.5% increase in detected numbers on there, which means that's more dealers that have been arrested, spoken to, and more drugs taken off the street, which again, as a recent local priority, is very pleasing to see. And then antisocial behaviour is showing a quite significant increase of 65%. But the qualifier for that is that every report we've had of any sort of breach of coronavirus restrictions since the pandemic began in March, or lockdown began in March, has been listed as an antisocial behaviour incident stroke offence. So that increase it can be explained away in the main by the increase in reports we've had of people breaching lockdown and tier 3 restrictions, which I'll come on to very shortly. So as a snapshot of the crime figures, I'm obviously very pleased to see reductions across the board. Like I say, coronavirus has had an impact on that, but it doesn't mean that we're getting any sort of complacency, and we'll continue to do our best to keep those figures down and create reductions wherever we can. So just to touch briefly on the policing priorities then, these were reset again last month with the local policing priority setting meeting. I think everybody will have had the newsletter which explained the rationale behind those, but just so everybody's aware, for the purpose of the live stream, the current policing priorities for the borough are burglary of people's homes, the antisocial use of motor vehicles, and within that we're specifically looking at the use of off-road motorcycles, car cruisers and speeding. And the third priority is targeting prolific shoplifters in the town centres. And my own rationale around that is that the people who are the prolific shoplifting offenders are also the ones that are hurting us with acquisitive crimes such as theft from motor vehicles, theft from sheds and similar sorts of crimes. So if we can target them through shoplifting, which is usually a fairly easy crime to detect because they're known, we've got CCTV in the shops, then if we can take them off the streets for that, then they're not hurting us elsewhere with acquisitive crime. So they are the current three priorities. They'll be refreshed again in December as per the previously distributed process. So on to the main challenge at the minute for us, which is the ongoing and continuing pandemic. All of our policing activity around coronavirus is as a force comes under the banner of Operation Bion. It has presented us with a number of challenges on Broxtowe, not least of which around the university and particularly the accommodation campus at Broadgate in Beeston. Unfortunately, we have had a number of calls to there, which culminated not this last weekend, the weekend before, with a large party being broken up and a number of fixed penalty notices issued to people in attendance. As a result of that, last weekend I authorised dispersal powers under Section 34 of the Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act, which gives officers the ability to move people on out of the area and prevent them from coming back for a set period of time. If they come back, then they're given, they can be arrested. Fortunately, those powers weren't needed to be used over the weekend, but we did do a piece of media on that to let people know they were in place. We still had a number of calls come in, and I'm currently reviewing that as to whether or not that needs to go in again this weekend. But it is fair to say that the number of calls that we've had around Broadgate in the last 2 weeks have reduced. So hopefully that will keep coming down, and we'll keep putting that media out there to let people know that what we're doing around that. Other things of note: Operation Larkspur in Stapleford continues. We've had some good successes with that, and particularly deployed into that are our new Operation Reacher team, who landed at the beginning of October. They very quickly made themselves known to some of the people we'll be targeting through Larkspur, and it's fair to say they're probably not on the Christmas card list of some of the people that are causing us some of the problems down there. So that operation will continue. It is supported with some overtime funding. And I'll continue to make sure that people are default tasked into the Stapleford area for those patrols to continue. A brief update on licensed premises. As I'm sure I think everybody is aware, the Queen's Head at Kimberley was closed by the County Council at the end of September under COVID legislation, and a review, licence review was requested by our licensing department. That review happened this week. I'm not aware of whether or not the licensing panel have reported on the findings on that, so that's not for me to give any update on that. I'll leave that with those. But that licensing review has now taken place. And then final update from me is it's currently the National Knife Crime Week of Action under Operation Sceptre. Unfortunately, because of the lockdown, the plans that we'd had in place had to be curtailed somewhat. For those that might be wondering why we've got no knife crime amnesty bins in the places that we previously agreed, unfortunately, as happened in March at the beginning of the lockdown, a decision was made by our command that shared accommodation, local authority owned accommodation, we won't be putting the amnesty bins into there. So we've not had any on Broxtowe, unfortunately. They've only gone into police owned properties, half a dozen police sites across the county. And the rationale behind that is obviously not wanting to encourage people to come into too much movement around the lockdown. So that's disappointing that we couldn't have those in place. However, Operation Sceptre is still up and running in Broxtowe. There's been quite a bit of activity around visiting known knife crime nominals, people who our intelligence suggests are maybe carrying knives, people that we know have been convicted of knife offences in the past, and also things like open ground, open area patrols and knife sweeps with metal detectors on some of the parks in the borough. So there is a lot of activity that we've done around that, just not as full a programme as we would like to have done. So that's in a nutshell where we're at the minute. In terms of the coronavirus policing and the staffing around that, we have had some additional funding made available to us with regards to being able to pay overtime for additional patrols. So we are able to cover the gaps where, for instance, a neighbourhoods team might not be on duty on a particular day. So there is additional funding available for us for that, which we are putting offers in through that. And just to give my reassurances again to everybody that we will continue to do the best that we can to keep crime and disorder down on the borough and to be available to you whenever we can be.
Sam, thank you. I mean, those reductions that you sort of mentioned were quite astounding. So congratulations to you on the impact that you're having on crime in the area. Just looking at the chat now, can members just put on their chat if they would like to speak? So the first one I've got is Richard, followed by Lee.
Yeah, hi there. Right, is this?
You're frozen.
Can you hear me? Oh, this bloody thing. Is the sound coming through?
Yes, we've got you now.
Okay, I didn't know if the sound was coming through. Well, it must have a delay on it. No, first I'd obviously like, as can you please pass thanks to all the police as well, because we have got the best beat team around, especially over in Stapleford. It is sad that these operations are having to take place, but at the same time, I'm glad they are, and they've been a long time coming. It's people aren't sticking their heads in the sand anymore. I don't mean the police when I say that, but we're actually getting stuff done. I'm sure there's a few more people that's going to be getting some early wake-up calls. So thank you for that, and please pass it on to the police, to the staff. And it was just one request as well. We've had people knocking on doors and claiming to be from various places, saying, you know, they want to fit alarms and this, that and the other. And then if the police happen to be through Stapleford at 8 o'clock any morning of the week, you'll catch a group of adults sitting outside the bus stop on the precinct drinking alcohol. They're there at 8 o'clock every morning. I do think we've got a one of those exclusion zones on Stapleford, so if they could be moved on, because it's not what people want to see when they're out on the street, people getting drunk, and that's not a criticism. I'm letting you know so you do know. And on that, like I said earlier,
thanks for that, Richard. Can I, Lee, would like to speak?
Yeah, thanks very much. Can you hear me? Chair, because I was having problems with the volume earlier.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, just want to say thank you very much to Inspector Riley and his team for everything that they're doing. Just going back to the student party on Broadgate and the incidents that are happening there, it's probably more of a question aimed for probably David Gell. Can you just explain what the council is doing to liaise with Nottingham University to try and reduce the amount of incidents that we're seeing in terms of student parties?
Through you, Chair. Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, please, David. Yes, please come in on that.
Yes, we are liaising with the university, but obviously there's only a limited amount of advice we can do. The actual sort of the main power rests with the university, because they've got the contact day to day with the students, and also the sanctions other than that the police have got, obviously, for the illegal gatherings, to ultimately expel someone from a course. So really the major power with the university rests with the universities, and obviously intelligence, as Inspector Riley has said, will pass between his officers and the university to highlight if there are any incidents. Clearly nobody wants to see students expelled from a course or in fact fined, but ultimately they are the sanctions which can be applied.
Can I just clarify as well for that, for Councillor Fletcher? Obviously my team are in regular contact with the security team at the university, and that particular party where people were fined, the university security team have got their own ongoing investigation into that to identify the people who were involved in organising it, and they will be taking their own sanctions on that. I don't think it's any secret that the Chief Constable himself has called upon the universities to take more stringent action against those that wish to break the regulations. As Mr. Gell said, it's for the universities to make that decision, but our teams locally, certainly my teams locally, are very much linked in with the university security team to try and get the most appropriate outcomes on that, shall we say.
Thank you both.
It's a very difficult point, that is. I think it's just on Nottingham Evening Post that the Nottingham University have issued the most number of fines to their students in the country, I think. So they're making efforts to try and do something about it. But I personally am rather disappointed about the attitude of some students towards this pandemic. They don't seem to realise that it's in all our interests to put certain restrictions in. But yes, Barbara, did you wish to say anything?
No, it's me.
Oh, right. Thanks, Steve.
Just to say that the Broadgate, the part of Broadgate Park is in Barbara's Mine ward, and we have had quite a bit of liaison with the university's community liaison team, who are very good. I am aware that they have been doing street patrols in the area and in Lent and Dunkirk around there, and they've actually split up parties and issued fines, etc., etc. Yeah, I have to point out though that Broadgate Park is almost entirely second and third year students. There are very, very few freshers there, so this is an occasion where we can't blame people coming to university and going mad because it's the first time they've been away from home and lived away from home. That isn't the case with Broadgate Park, and I think that's actually worth noting. Thank you.
Yeah. Good point, Steve. Anna.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to highlight it's very easy for us to blame all the students and scapegoat them almost. This is a minority of people causing problems. That by far the majority of students are trying to do their best to get their education and stick to the rules. It's really disappointing and unfortunate that a small but significant minority of students are breaking the rules and causing further problems. Thank you.
Yes, good. Well said, Hannah. I haven't got any notification from anyone else, so thank you, Inspector Riley. Keep up the good work, and wherever we can help, please, we will.
Will do. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee.
Moving on then, item 5, which I think is going to be quite swift. Richard, what do you want me to say?
Right, can you hear me better? Is that better? I've plugged it into the internet instead of the Wi-Fi.
Yep, that's
right.
Good.
Okay. Actually, yeah, it is very swift. I've actually got nothing to report because there hasn't been a meeting since the last meeting, so that's me done on that one. But as I always say, if anyone's got anything they want me to take to the police panel, you're more than welcome to give me a phone call or send me an email, and I'll do my best to get an answer for you. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, Richard. Moving on then to.
If I can just ask a question.
Sorry, Richard.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you. It was just for future meetings. I wonder if we could have a brief report on the agenda in advance of what's been discussed. I appreciate you've not had a meeting in the last couple of months, but if in future we could have a brief report of what's been discussed at the police and crime panel, then members are a bit more forewarned as to what they can look into and what the meaningful questions they might want to ask Richard after those meetings.
Yeah. Good point.
Do you want me to answer that part?
Please, yes, Richard.
I was going to say all the agendas and minutes, they're all I mean, I don't mind getting something together, that's not a problem, but all the minutes and agendas, they're always posted on the County Council website. I'm more than happy, well, obviously I'm happy, but I've got to ask you, you're in charge, if we could put a link to that as well on here as well, like as Richard just said, it might help people as well.
Well, I'll discuss with David and the officers, see if we can just attach an extra sheet to the front of our report with the agenda from the police and crime panel there.
Yeah. No, I ain't no problem with that. Thank you, Richard.
Right, I don't think it's beyond us, but yeah. Thank you, Richard. Moving on then to item 6, safeguarding children and safeguarding adults policy. This is updating them. Do I have an officer to speak to that, David?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this report brings 2 policies for members, as you say, just to update. We aren't, as members will be fully aware, the authority which has responsibility for safeguarding. That is the County Council in both safeguarding adults and safeguarding children. However, we have got a key role in making sure that adults and children are kept safe in the actions that we take as a local authority, and also if we do come across any activity or any situation where we have concerns about safeguarding adults or safeguarding children, we have to have in place procedures for making sure that they are reported and dealt with by the appropriate authority. So these 2 policies contain all that information. The updates mainly are on some of the reporting mechanisms, slight adjustments to those, slight adjustments to some of the contact people, and also in respect of safeguarding children, an amendment to what is the Safeguarding Children Partnership now, which used to be the Safeguarding Children's Board. So it's a slight change in the way the policy making bodies are formed and constituted. I would also add that supplementing these 2 policies, we have got some guidance and some condensed guidance, because obviously they're fairly hefty policies, but we've got some leaflets which are to be made available online, which give guidance, simple guidance on how to report concerns that officers, members or the public may have, and the process to go through to make sure that they get to the right people and those concerns are reported. So that's the situation with this report, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David. Would anybody like to speak? Richard?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, David has partly answered part of what I was going to ask, which was that obviously, we've all read these 2 policies, but it would be useful if we could have a brief summary in future of what's changed when we update policies, because I don't think any of us are going to sit down and have time to read the two, the previous policy and the new one side by side. So I take what Mr. Gale said about the differences and what's changed to this one. There's a few things in this just for some clarity on, really. Somewhere in the reports it says that elected members are ultimately responsible, which is absolutely as it should be, and I think that's delegated to this committee and ultimately to you, Pat. So I think I just want a bit of reassurance, because the policies don't really tell us what we do to make sure that all staff are aware of this. It just sort of says that all staff should be or are aware of it. So is it something that's ongoing training? Is it something that's done at induction? Is it a bit less formal than that? And to back that up, I know there are some figures in a noting report later on the agenda, but to back that up, some information about what has been reported by staff through to the MASH, and even potentially what outcomes there are, and just some thoughts about how we might compare to other similar sized councils in terms of the number of self-generated safeguarding issues that are passed on and up to the MASH. And it's useful for us as a committee that's responsible to know whether we're reporting more incidents or suspicions, or whether we're reporting fewer incidents and suspicions, because I think we have some concerns about that. The one or two cases that I've been involved in, and these might just be exceptions, where I think we have failed people. Certainly one where I think a homeless person had presented with a child to the council offices, and for whatever reason I won't go into, Broxtowe technically weren't responsible for housing that person. But when they then said, well, that's us both sleeping in a box again tonight, they were just allowed to leave the building, which I don't think is right, because there was a safeguarding issue there, if not safeguarding children and a safeguarding adults issue there. So just some reassurance that it really is a thread that runs through everything and every department and all members of staff.
Through you, Chair, in response to Councillor Jackson's query, in terms of the comparison with other authorities, I haven't got those figures to hand, but I'll certainly find them out and pass them on. Yes, the training is compulsory training for all employees to make them aware. Frontline staff are given sort of extra guidance as well, because they're the ones who are likely to come across these sorts of things. But yes, that is something, and it is repeated. It isn't just a once-only training. It is refreshed on a regular basis.
Thank you.
I'm not sure whether councillors are involved in this training at all, but can we make sure that the leaflets that you mentioned, David, are possibly emailed out to councillors to make them aware that we should be have an eye out for these things and know where to report them to.
I'll certainly do that, Chair. I'll make sure that not only members of the committee but all councillors get them as well. So they are being updated, and I think they're now complete. So yeah, we'll get those out to councillors.
Right, thank you. I've got Colin.
Yeah, actually, David just because I know last June, not the June just gone, the June before, I had a similar scenario where a constituent member, a young lad, actually was approached, and it was a lot on the county line problems. At the time, I was dismissive of who to report it. I reported it to the police, but now after this, there is a lot more options open. So like David was saying, yeah, we do need updated. I know Alex McLeish has put quite a lot on the intranet and everything, but I think once COVID is over, it would be nice to actually see councillors taking a more proactive and getting updated on a regular basis. And it's a very important area at the moment. Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Colin. Barbara.
Yes, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to point out that there is something called the Broxtowe Learning Zone, which members can access, and I have done quite a few training courses on there recently, and there are 2 training courses on there, one for excuse me, for safeguarding adults, awareness for counsellors, and for safeguarding children, awareness for counsellors. And I do recommend that counsellors do have a look at that, because it is really important. Myself and Councillor Steve Carr, have had quite a few instances recently where we have had to involve the MASH team with children, particularly during this lockdown, where things get a little bit out of hand in families. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Barbara. Hannah.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to echo the comments that Barbara Carr's made, really. We do, I mean, pre-COVID, we had regular training offered to councillors, and I have been on safeguarding training through the council in the past year since being elected. Obviously working for the NHS, we also get regular training, but I would echo Councillor Carr's recommendations about the Broxtowe Learning Zone and accessing those so that we can keep ourselves informed and updated and ready to respond to issues that occur in our wards. Thank you.
Trish.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say really what Hannah has just said, actually, Councillor Land, because we, as part of our induction program last year, we all did what safeguarding training was available. Not many of us turned up, but it was available and it was good. So yeah, it is around if we're prepared to make ourselves available.
Steve?
Yes, I was going to echo, but with a bit more weight, that I think it's absolutely essential that councillors should undertake this training. As a county council, you'll know from the past, Pat, that the emphasis on safeguarding is huge, and it's no less huge an issue at the borough level because, of course, of the housing aspect of it, and also that councillors, and Barbara alluded to this, councillors can go direct to the MASH team if they have concerns about a family or if they got concerns about children. You don't have to report it to the police, you don't have to go to the council, and if it's something that you consider to be very serious, then you should go straight to the MASH team without delay. But really, people need to know that. And if they're not trained and told that, then how do they know that they can do it? It's fairly straightforward.
Thanks for that, Steve, in an ideal world. But I think all councillors of whatever length of service should realise that we have each other to talk to and to advise, and that if you have a concern about anything, then ask, and someone will know where to point you to for it. Thank you. Shall I now move on? Oh, we'll move to a vote. Can I propose? Right. Can I ask the committee is asked to resolve that the revised safeguarding children policy and safeguarding adults policy be approved. Can I have a seconder for that?
Yeah, I'll second that, Chair.
Lovely.
Everyone's off my job today, crikey.
Right, thank you, Richard. And someone else there, I think, was it?
Yeah, I think it was me, David Bagshaw.
David, thank you. Can I put it over to the vote?
So if we could take the vote from Councillor Bagshaw, please.
4.
Councillor Barbara Carr.
4.
Councillor Fletcher.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Kerry. Stephanie, are you there? Councillor Kerry.
Sorry, 4.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
4.
Councillor Land.
4.
Councillor McRae.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Tideswell.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts Thompson.
4.
Thank you. And Councillor Lally.
4.
Thanks very much.
I think that's carried unanimously, is it? Yeah.
That's right.
Excuse me, sorry, Councillor Parker, I was missed from the vote.
Oh,
apologies.
Where,
apologies, Councillor Parker. How would you vote there?
Vote for, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, carried unanimously.
It's now carried unanimously. Lovely. Thank you very much. Moving on now to item 7, page 85 to 92, Eastwood Vehicle Nuisance Public Spaces Protection Order.
Thanks, Chair. Members will be aware from the last meeting of this committee that we brought the proposal to that meeting for the creation of a public spaces protection order to help control nuisance that was being created by the use of cars on and around the Tinsley Road Bridge. Members approved that we go out to consultation for that. We've done that. We had one response, which was from the principal complainant, but that's so little in the way of responses isn't unusual, to be honest. But we're bringing tonight the report for members to approve the making of the public spaces protection order to help control the vehicle nuisance at Tinsley Road Bridge. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely, thank you. I mean, obviously other agencies have expressed their concern about this to us, which has led us to this point. So I've got David Bagshaw. Would you like to speak? I think you're muted, David.
Very strange. Okay, thanks, Chair. Yes, we obviously have a problem down there, and what I would like to see is, can we have a continual update of results for people that are made aware of this order and what actions have been done with it, and that would be good. And if we could make a note of that, and on the next meeting, could we have some results of how many prosecutions or warnings or whatever have you has happened for that public space protection order on Tinsley Bridge?
Through your Chair, certainly I'll ask the neighbourhood inspector, because enforcement of this particular public spaces protection order will be undertaken by the police, by our colleagues in the police. So we can certainly ask him in his briefing to give an update on any activity that has been undertaken as a result of this public spaces protection order.
Thank you, David. And just as a link onto that, maybe while they're down there, they could see who's fly tipping down there, because that's a place where they fly tip in Eastwood. Thanks very much for it.
Thanks, David. Joshua?
Yeah, I'm completely happy and support the type of people that are involved in this. They're all sort of, similar age to myself. Some of them I may have even gone to school with, and being one of the sort of enthusiasts myself, I know most well that you can put these things in place and the scene will just shift, and it just shifts the problem elsewhere. So I'm all in favour of supporting it, but it's just something that I think is going to really need monitoring quite closely, because it can very easily become out of control again, because they will just simply move elsewhere, and then you've got to broaden your ranges even further and try and catch hold of it again. So I just basically want to just voice that concern over, and just make sure that hopefully they can follow it with it quite closely, and backing up with what Councillor Bagshaw says, if possible, to get a report to see how effective it's been and what the results are for the next meeting.
Chair, just coming in on that, what Josh is saying, if we can get them to move elsewhere, if we can get them to go across the border into Derbyshire, that would be absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
I'm sure you don't mean that, David.
That's always an option.
Yeah.
Through you, Chair, the
Yes,
point like Councillor Parker is well made. We have witnessed this before where we've introduced PSPOs and that like at Chilwell Retail Park, it can lead to the problem shifting elsewhere, unfortunately, but we are mindful of that. And yes, sometimes it does move to neighbouring boroughs. At Annesley at Junction 27, I believe it is, they've had an issue there. But we will keep an eye on that and monitor what happens.
It's a shame. I was just talking with a few colleagues prior to the meeting, and it's a great delight to a lot of people, the cars and modifying cars and such like, and it's a shame that you know, a minority make it dangerous for other residents, and so we have to step in and try and control it. So we'll carry on doing that. Lee, do you want to come in now, or wait till after 8, or come in now if you would?
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, it's a very similar point to what Councillor Bagshaw and Councillor Parker mentioned. I just wondered if we could have some data across all of the SPOs that are in place in Broxtowe that would suggest in terms of the enforcement data. Now, I appreciate it's hard to measure whether an order is effective because the purpose of the order is to deter the act. But I think it would just help if we could have that kind of annual review of how many enforcements have been made against each order. That might be a thing for David Bell to come back on. Thank you.
Through Chair, we can certainly look at that, but as Councillor Fletcher mentioned, that the very fact that the order is in place and the ability of police colleagues or whoever is enforcing it to be able to say, look, if you don't do this, then we can do that, often has the desired effect. So there may not be, just to say, and I think Councillor Fletcher mentioned this in what he was saying, that a measure of the success of a public spaces protection order isn't necessarily the number of fixed penalty notices or prosecutions resulting as a result of breaches of it. It can be the very fact that it's in place that it can be a deterrent. But I'll certainly I'll try and find some information to bring to committee on an annual basis that will give a flavour of if that sort of deterrent power has been used.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, David.
Yeah, I mean, David is making a good point there. I've in my own area, it's actually caused a problem to cease. It may well have moved slightly to somewhere else, but that is the ultimate idea of it, to actually stop a problem altogether, and it does empower the police to act if anything does occur, give them the power to do something. But then you can't take them out because the problem will then just return. But Colin.
Yes, thank you. I agree what Councillor Bagshaw and Councillor Parker have said. My only other one comment is regarding, I know on page 89, it says that the first offence, if they pay it off quickly, they'll only get charged £50. These type of people, like we've just said, they do tend to carry on the offences in another area. So I was wondering whether it would be actually worth looking at, rather than giving them a discount, if there are further offences, whether we should actually ask for the full £75. You know, if we look to be going soft on them, I just move to another border and say, oh, just another £50 I've got to spend tonight when I get found. So I was wondering whether we should be looking at on the subsequent offence, not just being so generous with them.
Through you, Chair, without wishing to sort of prejudge any offence or anything that happens on this, obviously each case is taken on its merits, but there is the facility within this particular piece of legislation to move to a fine at any point. It doesn't have to be an initial fixed penalty notice. It can be, we can prosecute straight away, and that allows the court to impose a fine of up to £1,000. So, you know, that would be a consideration of whether we do take someone to court or not, whether they've had a fixed penalty notice in the past and clearly disregarded it. So that was certainly something that will be taken into account when deciding what sanction to apply.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, that's enlightened us. I have no one else on the chat, so I'd like to make a recommendation. The committee is asked to resolve that in accordance with the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014, the making of the Eastwood Nuisance PSPO as detailed in the appendices be approved. Can I have a seconder for that?
I'll second that, Chair.
Happy to second that.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote.
Lovely. So if I could have the vote from Councillor Bagshaw, please.
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Barbara Carr, please.
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Lee Fletcher. Thank you. From Councillor Kerry.
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Jackson.
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Land.
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Parker.
4.
Thank you. From Councillor McRae. Richard, are you there?
Sorry, yeah, I'm here. I thought someone else was going to answer for me then. Yeah, 4.
Lovely, thank you. From Councillor Dideswell.
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Roberts-Thompson.
4.
Thank you. And from Councillor Lally.
4.
It's passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Moving on now to renewal of Chilwell Retail Park, Basil Russell playing fields and Malthouse Close Knapp Avenue public spaces protection orders at pages 93 to 116.
Thank you, Chair. This report is just really a consolidation report. Members will be aware a couple of meetings ago we consolidated all the alcohol control public spaces protection orders into one order to make it neater, tidier, and that they all concluded on the same date and could be renewed on the same date, etc. Now, although these 3 particular public spaces protection orders, which are all in existence at the moment, are there to control different sorts of antisocial behaviour, so we can't combine them all into one order. However, what we felt would be beneficial would be to consolidate them and make them all with the same end date, so that we have a situation where we're not bringing these on a basis to committee, so that there's a PSPO one committee, then another one the next committee, and so on. That members get the results of consultations for renewal and renewal of all the existing PSPOs at the same time. So it'd be easier for members, easier for committee, easier for the officers. And these 3 particular public spaces protection orders, which are for vehicle control with Chilwell Retail Park, for dog control for Basil Russell playing fields, and a gate, what was the old gating order for Malthouse Close, all very different controls for different sorts of antisocial behaviour. But what we want to do is just to consolidate the time period so they all come up for renewal at the same time. We've been out to consultation and had no adverse comments, Chair. So we're just asking that recommendation is approved by committee. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Richard, you'd like to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Pat. Happy to support this and see the retail park at Chilwell on here. This was something I was working on, well, I've been working on for probably about 15 years.
Yeah.
It was a huge problem down there. Just to reassure members who questioned the Eastwood previous item, it's worked in Chilwell, it really has.
Yeah.
And it stopped the problems down on the retail park. Neighbours, and actually because of the noise these blooming cars make, you don't have to be a particularly close neighbour to be kept up at night by them revving engines. It seemed to be.
I think I could hear it from.
You probably could. You didn't even drive around in circles there. They sat and revved engines for hours and hours at night, and you could hear it for miles around, literally. So it has worked. The only thing I'd say, this has been in place for so long now that if you look at the map on page 99, it covers all the car parks I can think of in Tottenham. It even goes as far as a small petrol station, forecourt up in Stapleford, but it misses out the park and ride car park site at the top of, well, it's on Staplewood Lane. I just wonder if Mr. Gull would take that away and have a look at whether we shouldn't add that in, because it does seem to be inviting people to go and do this kind of antisocial behaviour on that car park, which is the last thing that we want to see. The final thought I've got is following on from what Inspector Ragg told us earlier on about the dispersal zones that he put in place in certain places around the university campus. A bit of that was in the city, but some of it's in Broxtowe, and I wonder if there's any urgent powers that perhaps we might want to use to put something in there in terms of an alcohol disbursement zone.
David, you came up for a second. David Gell.
Yeah, certainly, Chair. Yeah, we can. I can look into the area. I'll speak to Councillor Jackson out of the meeting, just to identify the bit he's on about. Obviously, we can't just change it without the consultations. Members are aware, as we did with the cemetery area on the alcohol control one. But I'll certainly speak with Councillor Jackson out of the meeting. Yeah,
that is under net control, and I wonder whether they have got any powers themselves. The park and ride space, isn't it? Right, Hannah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to support this recommendation, and I welcome anything that reduces the amount of administration required for councillors and officers alike. So it seems like a sensible idea to amalgamate the various orders, so that we're not sitting through these kind of discussions each meeting. Thank you.
Well said. Richard McRae, sorry.
No, I didn't want to talk. I just commented that Richard raised a good point about the tram terminus. I agree with that.
Lovely, thank you.
I do make good points occasionally.
Yeah. Right, I've got no one else indicating, so I'd like to make a recommendation. The committee is asked to resolve, in accordance with the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014, that Chilwell Park Retail Park, Basil Russell Playing Fields and Knapp Avenue, Malthouse Close PSPOs, as detailed in the appendices to this report, with an end date of the 1st of May 2023, be approved. I'd like to propose that, please. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. Over to Cap for the vote, please.
Councillor Bagshaw.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Barbara Carr.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Kerry.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Land.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Parker.
For.
Thank you. Councillor McRae.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Tideswell.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts-Thompson.
For.
Thank you. And Councillor Lally.
For.
Again, that's unanimous. Thanks very much.
Thank you for that. Moving on to item 9, Antisocial Behaviour Action Plan, pages 117 to 136.
Thank you, Chair. Members of this committee will be aware, both in their own personal experience in their wards and also with the reports that come to this committee, that antisocial behaviour takes many different forms. There's no one organisation that has the power to deal with all of them. We have our part to play, as do the police, as do some other agencies, local landlords, that sort of thing. And there's no one action that will solve all antisocial behaviour. It's very much the action that we take to try and minimise and to eradicate this type of behaviour is many and varied. So what we have here is an update on the previous antisocial behaviour plan that we've been working to, and a proposed antisocial behaviour action plan for the next 2 years that we as the Borough Council will take, will put in place to try and minimise the problem that antisocial behaviour brings. This isn't to say that this is all we'll do. Clearly, if we're faced with an issue like we have with the Tinsley Road bridge, then we will deal with that as well. But this is just the plan that we're putting in place that will be dealt with over the next 2 years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, David. I've got Lee Fletcher.
Thanks, Chair. Just on page 120, I just want to know if David can explain what the police strategic analytical unit is. And in terms of the figures, will we get Q4 figures once the technical issue has been, or whether they're essentially just gone now?
Through you, Chair, the question is a good one, and sadly the answer is they appear to have, as Councillor Fletcher says, just gone. I have made inquiries on this. I've spoke to the neighbourhood inspector, and it appears there was some changeover of systems, and due to some technical issue, that Q4 data has disappeared. So I've made various inquiries in various quarters for it, but it has gone. The strategic analytical unit essentially is just antisocial behaviour cases reported to the police as opposed to the Borough Council, and they're the ones that Inspector Riley spoke of earlier when he mentioned about the 60-odd% increase. That they are those figures.
Barbara?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair, I'd like to ask Mr. Geller a question, if possible. On page, say page 120, if I'm reading this right, 2019 to 20, there are over 2,000 reports of antisocial behaviour through various agencies. Now that covers the period of this original action plan. I know it's not the new action plan, but there on page 125, it states there's been no convictions to report that we've been able to report appropriately through the media or press releases, Broxtowe Matters, etc. Nothing to report, no convictions. Is that correct? A secondary question would be, if that is correct, have we not had any community protection notices? It seems a shame that we can't actually bring these matters to the public and say to them, look, we are doing things to stop antisocial behaviour. It's a very important message to put out there that the council is taking action against noisy neighbours, people who, make a noise on the street, general antisocial behaviour. I just wonder what the reason for that was. If you could explain that, thank you.
Through you, Chair, yes, certainly. The convictions thing is a bit like I was mentioning before. Not every report, the reports are correct, over 2,000. Not every report will lead to a conviction, as Inspector Riley said, and I know it's an extreme example, but many of the examples we're dealing with at the moment are COVID related. So the vast majority of those won't get anywhere near a conviction. However, I take on board Councillor Carr's point about having publicity, and we do look for this where we can. And I'll certainly explore with our communications team if we can, what we can do with the community protection notices and things like that. The situation with those, however, is slightly different to conviction, because a conviction, the information goes into the public domain. With the community protection notices, we may be into a different world with data protection, etc. But I'll certainly explore that and see if we can make something of it. And even if we can do it, anonymise the information, then we'll see what gains can be made from that sort of media output.
Thanks, David. Richard Jackson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it might be useful just to get a bit more detail of what these incidents are, because there's some really high numbers, and I'm not suggesting for a minute there's anything like, low-level antisocial behaviour is a terrible thing, and I'm not suggesting that low-level is acceptable in any way, but it would be useful to just understand the seriousness of the whole spectrum when we're talking about the numbers of cases overall. The second thing is talking about hate crime. I think 130, and there are what looks like some increases, although we've only got the first 2 quarters in for this year. We only had the first 2 quarters of last year reported, which looks like it's almost doubled in a couple of years, which is obviously concerning. Now, the definition of hate crime has changed, and it's rightly been expanded to include a lot of additional things. So just to get an idea whether that increase we're seeing in Broxtowe is because of the increased scope of what's now classified as hate crime, or whether we're seeing an increase in hate crime in all forms. And the final point on the same question really is the statistics on 2020, 2021, is whether that relates to any of this reported hate crime incidents, particularly aimed at Chinese students and other members of the Chinese community at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic.
Through you, Chair. Certainly the various categories of antisocial behaviour, we can sort of certainly break those down for the ones which are reported to the Borough Council. I'll check with Inspector Riley and see if the categories that they break them down into, if in fact they do. But I'll certainly check on that point. The hate crime. I'm conscious that there was a change some while ago in that what were initially considered as hate incidents and hate crimes were then combined to all become hate crimes. So I will inquire if that had an effect, because now my understanding is that is the differential doesn't exist now, and they're all considered as hate crimes. Sadly, we have seen an increase though, and I'm not aware that there was anything directed at the Asian students at the start of the COVID pandemic, but I'll certainly inquire of Inspector Riley if he and his officers were aware of anything similar.
I'm sure other councillors have been made aware. I myself have of increased antipathy towards some of our Chinese residents. They're feeling very uncomfortable at this moment in time, and it's something we want to keep an eye out for, and ensure that they are made welcome. So Ruth, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm the hate crime champion for Nottinghamshire, and it is true that there was a spike in hate crime directed at Chinese people at the very beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. That trend hasn't been continued. I think one of the underlying causes of the increase in reporting is that the police have put a lot of effort into ensuring that hate crime is all appropriately, as they call it, flagged in their system, and the number of incidents is a reflection of improvements in recording practices, and I think that is a good thing. The collection of the data is well split down into all the different protected characteristic strand groups as well. There have been fluctuations in the spikes relating to hate crime. I did mention the Chinese spike. When there is a significant, shall we say, EU exit event, it is possible to see correlating spikes in reporting by different communities. We have had increases in LGBT reports of hate crime generally. I think that is a feature of increased awareness of the fact that these sort of crimes are crimes and need to be reported to the police. And I think one of the positive things is that the satisfaction rates on hate crime are some of the highest across all crime categories. So the police are increasingly efficient and professional in dealing with hate crime, and indeed Nottinghamshire has led the way in certain aspects of tackling it, for example in categorising misogyny as a hate crime, which is now being recommended by the Law Commission as something which should be implemented nationally. In Broxtowe in particular, we do experience some hate crime directed at, for example, Chinese restaurants. Sometimes they experience these sorts of crimes. I think it is true that some students experience these crime and also, unfortunately, can be perpetrators as well. But we are always trying to do better at both recognising these crimes, capturing the data, but most importantly, following them up and preventing people from becoming re-victimised. Thank you.
Would you like to come back on that, Richard? Or?
No, thanks for that. It's just really to get a handle on whether we think there is an increase in hate crime or whether there is an increase in the reporting of it and the classification of it. I think it's probably, yeah, okay, thank you.
Thanks. Colin.
Thank you, Pat. A question for David, really. You know, the antisocial behaviour order. I know when the, say, antisocial behaviour is reported to Broxtowe, does Broxtowe actually automatically pass that on to the police and vice versa? Because I've been in scenarios where constituent members have reported and told me that they've reported it to Broxtowe, and then they called the police in again for the same problem, and they've said, oh, it's a council problem, it's not a police problem. So I'm wondering why the police may or may not know about it, or Broxtowe may or not know about it, because there is not been any connection. So I'm just curious to know whether Broxtowe actually passes any antisocial behaviour messages on to the police and vice versa.
Through you, Chair. Yes, it does happen both ways, not as an automatic matter of course. It very much depends on the case, the incidents, the past nature of what's happened. So if Broxtowe Borough Council receive an antisocial behaviour complaint, if it's one that is in our power to deal with, if it's a noise complaint, if it's about one of our tenants or something like that, then that will clearly be dealt with by us. But that's not to say that the police may be involved in that as well. And also similarly, if the police get one, they feel that it's more appropriate for the council to deal with, they'll pass it on to us. We do try to minimise any situation where a case will fall through the cracks, if you like, in that it's passed between the two and gets lost, in that we have a common system for recording cases, a system called eSINs, which is accessed by the police and by the Borough Council. We also have, in normal times, and obviously not at the moment, but we have our officers co-located with the police, and we have two part-time antisocial behaviour enforcement officers who work very closely with the police to ensure that there is that link, and that they speak on a regular basis with the police, and even nowadays when they're not in the office with them. We also have the antisocial behaviour panel, which is a panel which meets monthly, which is a multi-agency panel to deal with specific cases which it's felt need an input from the various agencies, not just the police and the council, but probably probation, probably housing associations, the fire brigade, that sort of thing. So in answer to your question, they do get passed, but not just as a matter of course, and it isn't just like a hot potato thing either.
Thank you, David.
Well, I thank all our team for the work that they do on this. They do work in close partnership with the police. They're tremendously difficult issues to deal with. A lot of these people falling out is not an easy situation to resolve a lot of the time, and trying to educate people how to behave as well. It's ongoing. So I'd like to, I don't think I've got anyone else showing to speak. So I'd like to make a recommendation that the committee is asked to resolve that the Antisocial Behaviour Action Plan 2020 to 2022 be approved. Can I propose that, please? Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. Catherine, over to you.
Could I have the votes, please, from Councillor Bagshaw?
4.
Thank you. From Barbara Carr?
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Fletcher?
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Kerry?
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Jackson?
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Land?
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Parker?
4.
Thank you. From Councillor McRae?
4.
Thank you. From Councillor Tideswell?
Is this relating to item number 10? Yeah.
It's the Antisocial
4.
Behaviour Action Plan.
Yeah. Item 9.
Item 9.
9. 4.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts Thompson?
4.
Thank you. And Councillor Lally?
4.
Another unanimous one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, members, move on to item 10, questions and comments on noting reports. Domestic abuse, does I think possibly Rachel Shaw is here. Would she like to speak at all to this? We've got.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Yes. So obviously a noting report for committee, but
Rachel Shaw is the. I suppose there might be members of the public listening. You are head of housing.
I am head of housing. Yes.
And this falls in your department.
And yes, this falls under my remit, and as you can see from the report, it's fairly new as a role that's being done through housing. The council obviously have responsibility to work with our partner agencies, and since March we've had a new person in post who's been coordinating this work. The report really just gives an overview of the partners that we work with and the various work that we do to offer support to survivors of domestic abuse.
Well, my belief is it's been very well received, and it's working positively, this new post. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Right, Lee. Sorry, so 10.1. Which one's 10.1, Lee? Is that domestic abuse? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just on page 2, just down the page where the refugee accommodation, refuge, sorry. I don't know if this is a question for Rachel or David, but it specifically mentions Women Aid Helpline. What can you just for my benefit explain how that's adapted, obviously, to victims who are male, and do we think we should add a paragraph in terms of the avenue that domestic violence victims who are male would go down as well? Thank you.
Yes, so it is something that we're looking at and working on at the moment. We work with both the sort of CIH on their Make a Stand pledge and White Ribbon on their campaign. The White Ribbon campaign is focused on violence against women, where the Make a Stand campaign through the Chartered Institute of Housing will focus us on all aspects of domestic abuse. So we're working to sign up to all of the pledges, and through that sort of increasing the agencies that we work with. Most of our partner organisations at the moment do focus on the on female victims of domestic abuse, and it's been a priority for Kerry, who started in post in March, to really sort of widen the agencies that we work in. And I think it's a very valid comment that it's something we need to increase our work in.
Sorry, Chair, can I just
yes, if you're brief, yes, certainly.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you very much, Rachel. Completely understand that the majority of domestic violence does happen against women, but I do think, just for the purposes of this, I think it is so important to raise domestic violence against men as well. So I just wonder if there's something that we can put in there. I know it's only a noting report, but it's just more about an issue of principle, really, to make sure that we are fair across both genders when it comes to domestic violence. Thank you.
I think we can take that on board. Thanks.
Yes.
Certainly the intent is there to protect all those who are suffering domestic abuse of whatever form, financial or physical or verbal or mental. It comes in all different forms, doesn't it? And I hope we are moving as well towards a little bit more re-education of offenders, and which apparently is a very powerful tool in trying to address this issue. So I hope we can keep that in mind as well. Lovely. Thank you. Remember, safeguarding referrals. Any comments on that report? No, thank you. And performance management.
Yes.
Sorry.
Could I speak on
yes,
this?
Yes, please, Trish.
Thank you very much. And it's really just to compliment you on the page 7 on the safeguarding report. Those statistics there show the huge expanse and range of issues that we're dealing with, and I thought that was quite impressive to collect those statistics and let us have a look at the range of issues that our staff have to cope with. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, Trish, and thanks for your recognition of the work that our officers do in many difficult fields, and where you could almost throw your hands up, what am I going to do about this, a lot of the time, but they still carry on. David Bagshaw.
Mute that. Just a question. Can I ask that when we rehouse somebody who's suffering from domestic abuse, whether it be male or female, and we put them into a new location, what do we do then to make sure that they are safe? In dealing with this with the police, which I was very active with, we also made sure that the people inside the dwelling knew we'd fit cameras and all sorts out so they could see who was at the door, and we'd give them some roving PAs, so within a mile or more they could raise an alarm. Can I ask what we're doing for these people when they get rehoused?
I think, Rachel, we had a little bit of a discussion. Would you like to speak on that at all?
Yes, I can do.
Great.
You've seen the report as well. We mentioned the sanctuary scheme. So if it's possible and it's recommended that somebody remains living within their own home, we can put in the security features, which you described: additional security, cameras, additional lighting. And whilst it's not appropriate in every case, in some cases we can do that work, which actually means that people don't need to move out of their home. If there are children involved who are at school particularly, that's an area where often agencies involved are very keen on trying to remain, keep the stable environment, keep the children within the same school. If through the risk assessments it's identified that actually a move would be the best outcome, the first thing we do really to make sure that people are safe is to look at the most appropriate areas to move them to. Sometimes that involves people moving out of the borough entirely to another area of the country, and we work with other authorities to facilitate that through reciprocal arrangements when needed. Otherwise, we can look at the different areas within our own borough where they can move to try and be as safe as possible. And then, yes, we will look to add additional security features, additional lighting, CCTV where that's permitted and necessary, to really ensure that the person who lives within there is safe in the property and doesn't need to move again in the future.
I think as well, Rachel, we're a lot swifter in implementing these measures now, aren't we? I think.
Yes, we're part of the work we've done since March is we now have our own officers trained to complete the assessments, which means often we can get the work done within 24 hours because our own operatives also complete the work, and that's quite a change to how we used to operate, which used to involve us having to make a referral to an officer at the police who would then complete the assessment and come back to us. It would still all happen fairly quickly, but as you can imagine, the more people that are involved, the longer the process takes. So we have had a sort of number of instances over the last few months where we've been able to get out to a property on the same day that the matter's been reported to us.
Lovely.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, David. Lee, speaking on page 7.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just on page 7, the adult referrals. So it says 9 threats of suicide during phone calls to the council in response to claims and decisions. Obviously, last year, the mental health working group put forward a new, and for the first time, actually, suicide prevention strategy. I just wanted to know how effective that was in these cases. Appreciate it might not necessarily fit under community safety, it might be more personnel. But I just wanted to know if we've got any anecdotal evidence to suggest how well that was in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just not hearing Councillor Fletcher very well there. Was that Councillor Fletcher in terms of the dealing with threats of suicide that officers receive? Was that the procedure you mentioned?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I've got you now. Yeah.
I was just saying that obviously last year the mental health working group put forward the suicide prevention strategy, and I just wanted to know in particularly these 9 cases how effective that strategy had been. Now, I appreciate that might be more of a personnel committee kind of remit, but I just wanted to know whether we've got any anecdotal evidence of how well that strategy was working.
Certainly. Through you, Chair. Yes, it's working very well, is the simple answer. Before we had this in place, it was very much down to the officer thinking on their feet. How do I deal with this? Obviously, concerning for the officer, concerning for the person on the other end of the phone. It's mainly on the other end of the phone, but it can be face to face. So we introduced this procedure and it's working very well. It now gives officers the chance at the click of a button, because it's on the intranet, to refer to it, and they can then go through the process, which gives them a step-by-step detail of how to approach the person, what questions to ask them, what referrals to make on, and then at the end of it, that case is referred on as a safeguarding case, so it's not lost. And interestingly, and it's something that we are now looking at, part of the procedure does require that the officer sort of shouts up for a buddy to come and help them, so that they can concentrate on the call and someone is there to take notes or whatever. It's been brought to our attention, and it's blindingly obvious when it is brought to your attention that people working from home don't have a buddy next to them as you do in an open plan office. So we're now working on changing that procedure to have a situation where people are on their own, clearly not as good as having someone there, but I'm afraid, in the times we find ourselves, that's what we've got to do. So yes, in answer to your question, it has proved very successful and very useful to staff.
if I can just come back on that, Chair.
Very briefly, please, if you would.
Just, yeah, very briefly, just want to say, I think I speak on behalf of all the members of the working group that that's such a welcome analysis, and I'm really happy that we were managed to put that into process. So thank you very much.
Well, I say mental health should be embedded in everything we do in every committee, in fact, which I'm hoping it is, that we should pay heed to it. This threat of suicide during phone calls, Council, is something that a lot of our employees unfortunately experience and have to deal with, and it's a very difficult issue altogether. Steve.
Yeah, just really a plea to remember councillors in this as well. As you know, I've been a councillor for 17 years, and this year, for the first time, I had actually had somebody phone me on Easter Sunday threatening to commit suicide, and it's a very, very traumatic experience to suffer. Obviously, they're going through hell at the other end of the phone, but I found it very, very difficult and had to have lots of conversations with staff members on the week after, and it's not a pleasant experience. And I think some councillors would find that situation very, very difficult to handle, and we should be prepared to actually support them if something like that happens.
Yeah, well said, Steve. Richard Jackson.
Yeah, Steve's absolutely right. I've had that happen to me, and it's quite an experience. It's this report that I mentioned earlier on the previous one of the previous items, and it's particularly, well, there's two things. I mean, it's come out tonight that several members have been reporting people that they've got safeguarding concerns for. So I wonder if this report in future should include a trawl amongst councillors for the numbers of people they've referred with safeguarding concerns, because I suspect it would probably more than double these figures just from what we've heard tonight from people. And this is where my concern is, that these are very, very low numbers. I know what the numbers are being referred to the MASH, and I know that's county-wide, and I know a borough or district council is probably the least likely of the authorities to actually have made referrals. But I think it would be really useful to get some stats from the MASH, and I'm sure that would be possible, of referrals from each district in Nottinghamshire, just as a start off. If we're around the average, then fine. If we're way below average, which I'm a bit worried might be the case, then there's an issue that we need to address, because if we're missing referrals, then clearly there's something wrong. I don't know the answer. It's just a concern that I have, and I'd like to see some figures on that at some point in the future.
It's a shame that a lot of the agencies that deal with these issues, a lot of the official agencies, are absolutely overwhelmed, and the pandemic has certainly made a lot of these issues a lot worse. It's another intractable problem that we have. Lovely. I see no more on that one. So can I move on to performance management? Can I ask if there's any questions on that, please? No, I'm not getting anybody showing. So can I ask then that we note those reports? Lovely. Thank you, members. I'll move on now to item 11, work programme. Pages 137 to 138. I myself did want to ask that we put on a little a small few line piece on the next meeting about the trowel. What's it? That's it. Pong that we discussed at council. While it's not within our power to do too much about it, I said that we would bring a report back to this committee on with an update on it. Environment AG, I think, are making some moves on it. David, can we put that on? David, get on.
Through your chair, yes, we can do that as just as an information report. And just one other thing, if I can mention, Chair, on the work programme, we have welfare funerals on there. I will check on the correct committee for that, because I'm conscious this may not be the right committee to bring that to, but I will check on that. If it is this one, then it will be on for next time. If not, it will go to the appropriate committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Richard Jackson.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's just I had cause to call Mr. Gell this morning when I was out for my daily walk and saw a throw line at a local pond had been vandalised, and the line had been, well, it wasn't there, it had been stolen or had been chucked in the pond. God knows what goes through people's minds to do something like that. So it struck me that it's 3 years since the tragedy at Beeston Weir. It's a couple of years since we put these throw lines in and other measures in at open water places right across the borough. I wonder if we could have a report on, we must have some data available on the number of times that they've been used, and equally if there is a vandalism problem that's widespread, or if this is just a one-off. I'm sure council will get that particular one sorted and repaired as soon as possible. That's not really the issue, but I suspect they may well have been put to use, and it will be very interesting to know. And equally, have we covered absolutely everywhere in the borough that might need one of these throw lines putting in?
Through you, Chair, I do know that a report was undertaken. Obviously, there was a lot of work done after the tragedy at Beeston Weir a couple of years or so ago, and a lot of areas of open water were identified as needing these things and were put in. I'll certainly look into if we can find these statistics for how often they have been used properly, as opposed to be opened up as real to vandals. And just on Councillor Jackson's individual request this morning, that is in hand. A contractor has been tasked with repairing it. The lock and the rope and everything were recovered from the roof of a neighbouring building. We had to get our tree team out there to get them down, but they have been recovered, and the work has been ordered to get that repaired.
That's great. Thanks very much. I mean, that's really quick work, David. Thank you. And perhaps we can add into the report just how often these are checked or maintained. I don't know what maintenance they need. Thanks for that, Pat.
Yeah, it was a difficult problem, wasn't it? And it was a terrible time when that happened. Thank you. Colin. Colin, can I bring you in?
Yes. I was actually wondering if it was part of the work programme. The things like safety of the cycle tracks and safety of pedestrians, the walk areas that are also part of the cycle tracks. I know that where the public parks are, there's a lot of safety aspects, as far as I'm concerned, regarding the actual safety where you've got where you've got a path and people walking together. And I was wondering whether we should be actually looking at the actual safety aspects of the pedestrian walk areas as well. You're with me, Pat?
Well, actually in the parks?
Yeah, the actual where you've got in the parks, you've got a lot of people cycling and you've got people walking on the same area. So I would like to look at the actual safety aspects.
That would come under Environment and Climate Change Committee, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Colin, I'll speak to you after this meeting, and we'll just try and have a look at that. I know it's an ongoing issue that people cycling in parks, it is actually not allowed. But I know it happens. Yes. So yeah, we must talk about that and which committee to actually put it on. Lovely. Thank you. I'm not showing anyone else on the chat wishing to speak, so I'd like to make a recommendation. The committee is asked to consider the work programme and resolve accordingly. Well, right, I think we've resolved. I'll propose that, please.
Yeah, I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you then. If I could have the vote from David Bagshaw, please.
4.
Thank you. And Councillor Barbara Carr.
4.
Thank you. And Councillor Fletcher.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Kerry.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Land.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Parker.
4.
Thank you. Councillor McRae.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Tideswell. Councillor Tideswell.
Yeah, 4.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts Thompson.
4.
Thank you. And Councillor Lally.
4.
Thanks very much.
Great, that's accepted unanimously. Thank you, members, for a productive and positive meeting. So, good night and keep well.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.